Hi, family. We are back and we are continuing our task of answering difficult questions. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for making the journey worth it. I'm growing personally and I hope you are growing too. Wow, what a journey there's been. The lockdown has been quite easier for me because, I'm getting to engage with you and I'm having a time of my life. All right, today's question then is, what do we live for? In the gist of this question is, what is the meaning of life? Because the question takes us to some few scriptures, such as you realize when you look into the book of Luke chapter 2. There is a man called Simeon who, God promised that he's going to see the Messiah before he dies. And the day he saw the Messiah, he said, now I can depart in peace because my eyes have seen the salvation of Israel and of the nations. So he came to a place where he was satisfied in life because, what God promised had happened. You realize that Abraham, God had promised him a son. And when he got his son, he kind of like reached the apex of what he was living for. He was satisfied, and it seems like he had nothing else to look forward to. Well, you look at people such as David, who had a dream of building God a house, and God said to him, "You're not gonna build me a house. Your son after you is going to build this house for me." So it's kind of like David is denied his dream while Abraham was given his dream and Simeon was also granted his dream. So the question really is, are we living for God's purpose, or is it our dreams eventually that short circuits our lives? Are we chasing after our dreams? Are we missing God's point, God's purpose for our lives? Or what is it exactly that we are living for? Well, that is at least I'm trying to summarize how the question was phrased towards me. So that is at least the gist of the question. Now, to answer this question, I have to make some few highlights there. That part of this is venturing into life questions, and unfortunately, in a short video like this, I cannot answer life questions because it's a full teaching on itself, and it will take me hours on end, even days, to try to answer life questions. Questions such as, who am I, where do I come from, where am I going, why am I here, all those life questions. It's a bigger spectrum of things, and I cannot answer that in a short video like this. Secondly, this question touches part of my ministry, which is life coaching. And these are payable sessions and all those kinds of stuff. However, I will answer this question as comprehensively as I possibly can. So let us go into the response to this question. First of all, it matters how you define life. Your definition of life says a lot, because your definition of life determines, how far you will go in life. It determines, when you say you have lived, what do you really mean? So your definition of life really matters. You realize that there is a concept that is made popular these days in this generation, YOLO, you live only once. And many people make wrong decisions because you live only once. What if you'll never get this opportunity again? The danger with that is that at the age of 25 you can actually destroy your life forever, and you still have 50 more years to live. But the decisions that you made at 25 have already cornered your life such that you cannot break out of that mold anymore. And that is why we've got so many people who are unsatisfied with life, because life decisions are based on your definition of life. How you define life determines what you will decide to do with life. That is very key and that is very important. One of the reasons for this is because we compare ourselves in life to people who have already gone ahead of us. We kind of like live in a predefined world. We live in a predefined life, such that if you ask somebody, what do you want to become in life, people will tell you, well, I want to be an engineer. It's something that already exists. I want to be a sports person. It's something that already exists. When you ask them about being a sports person, they wouldn't give you a new sporting code that they created. No, they define themselves within soccer, rugby, cricket, athletics, things that already exist, because we kind of like live in a predefined world. We've got things such as American dream, a big house, a big car, and a beautiful wife, or a handsome husband. It's an American dream. It's already predefined for us. So in an unfortunate turn of events, we tend then to compare ourselves with each other. And that is really what God doesn't want. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and looking at verse 12, it says, "For we dare not class ourselves or compare ourselves with those who commend themselves. But they, measuring and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise." So God is saying, if you are going to live a life of comparing yourself with others, you are not wise. Because the reality of the matter is, you are unique. There is a specific purpose for which God brought you into this world. And if you are going to compare yourself with others, you are going to measure your success on the basis of others when you are not even here for them. If you are going to look at your peers, those who went ahead of you, or those people that you studied with, or your colleagues that you are working with, what they have achieved thus far, and you think that you failed because you have not yet achieved that, then really you are messing up with your own life, when you should be chasing after a bigger purpose in life. There is something more about you than meets the eye. And the problem is, you have not really searched into yourself and really found out, what is it about me? What is unique about me? What is it that I have that somebody else doesn't have? And because we live in a predefined life, we fail to step into the best of what we can become. So how you define life matters a lot. Now, because the person who's asking is a Christian like I am, and we of course will adopt a Christocentric perspective towards life, then if we going to adopt a Christocentric perspective towards life, we will say life begins with Christ. So your life begins from the moment you receive Christ. And I know somebody will say, but that's a spiritual life. No, it's not just a spiritual life. The whole of life can be defined by receiving Christ, because when you receive Christ in your life, you step in the life of impossibilities. All things are possible for those who believe. You only find this in the Bible. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You realize that when you receive Christ, you step into the world of impossibilities becoming possibilities. Your limitations, your generational curses are broken. Everything that used to be a limitation in your life has been sidelined. Now you step into the world of possibilities, where all things are possible, where nothing is a limit anymore. The only limit is what you believe, because whatever you believe God for, you can achieve. So once you step into Christianity, then you step into the world of impossibilities becoming possibilities. You step into the world of limitlessness. So when you take a Christocentric perspective towards life, life begins with Christ. From the moment you receive Christ, then you need to go ahead and redefine your life in a sense of Christ. One of the things that we realize about life, whether you are Christian or not, is that people have a desire to live forever. Well, this is what God has placed in us. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and looking at verse number 11, it says, "He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end." So here is what the Bible says. God has placed eternity in us. Maybe that is why many people don't want to be old. People get offended when you say to them, you look old. They want to stay young. They want to stay fresh. You find very old people trying their level best to look young, because we kind of have this passionate desire within us to live forever, because God has placed eternity in our hearts. But we don't just want to live forever. We also want to be noticed. Why do we want to be noticed? Because we want to make a difference. We are all here in life so that we can make a difference. That is why we are all born. We are all here so that our lives can make an impact in other people's lives. So we want to be noticed because we want to make a difference. We want to, it goes down to when people walk into a shop and buy a clothing item, you want something that everybody else doesn't have, because you want to, when you walk down the street, you want people to notice you, that you are different. That's how serious this thing is. All these things are things that are passionately placed in our hearts by the fact that when God created us, He created eternity in us, and He created uniqueness in us. So if you doubt that you want to be unique, it's a simple test. Look at the kind of clothes you want to buy. You want something that nobody else has, because you want to be unique. Everybody has something that is unique about them, and it is our journey then to discover this. But now, while we are still talking about this, you realize that life cannot be defined by getting. Because the challenge is, we want to get, everybody wants to get rich, everybody wants to get a big house, everyone wants to get a big car, everyone wants to get a beautiful wife to marry, a handsome husband to marry, a rich husband to marry. Everybody wants to get, but that cannot define life. Because the way God has tuned life is that the greatest satisfaction that you will get in life, you will get it through giving. This is very key. You need to notice that. You can make a simple test for yourself. Take what you have and give it to others. And of course, your mind will fight with you, because what if you will never get it back? What if you will never get anything better than that? But get to concentrate on the feeling that you get after you gave. It's a great feeling. You feel good about yourself. You feel like you made a difference, because life can be defined by what you give. So it is very critically important for us to understand that our dreams cannot be centered around ourselves. You have to live for more than just you. That's what will bring satisfaction to life. When you live for more than just yourself. It's okay to dream. It's okay to desire great things. But you need to understand that in your desire for great things and everything, life cannot cannot be defined around all that you get. It has to go beyond that. You have to come to a place where life is defined by how much you give. Well, part of knowing God's purpose of our lives, of course, we know God's purpose through looking into the Bible. That's the word of God for our lives, and we understand the purpose of God for our lives. Here is, let's take for instance the 10 Commandments. We know the 10 Commandments are the law of God, and we know that God, shows what He wants and what He doesn't want through the 10 Commandments. Simple. The 10 Commandments are subdivided into 2 divisions. The first 4 commandments are about loving God. The last 6 commandments are about loving others. When Jesus was asked what is the greatest commandment, He said the first and the greatest commandment is love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your heart, with all your might, with all your potential. And He says the second is like it, love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's how the 10 commandments are actually classed. That's why Jesus says that's where the whole law hangs. Loving God and loving your neighbor. So if you really want to know the purpose of God for your life, you have to ask yourself a simple question. What is it that I want to do for God so that other people's lives are improved? I will take a typical example with myself. I'm called to preach the gospel. Of course, thank God that I've discovered my calling in life, and I'm in the journey of discovering my uniqueness, because there are many preachers out there, and there is something unique about me, and I'm in the journey of discovering that. That's why I teach differently from the rest of everybody. You can listen to many preachers out there, and when you come to listen to me, you will notice the difference. I'm different. I'm unique. However, what satisfies me is making a difference in people's lives. That's what satisfies me the most. So when I preach to 20,000 people, which is still coming, or when I'm preaching to 2 people, maybe 1 person is listening to this video, to me, what satisfies me is to see somebody who listens to me getting their lives together and their lives are improving. That's what satisfies me. When somebody else's life becomes better. Even if your life becomes better than mine, I don't mind. Because my purpose for living, I get satisfied. I get delighted when I see somebody else's life getting better. I feel like speaking like my pastor, Pastor Nzo, I would pay God to let me preach the word. I would pay God to let me make a difference in other people's lives. So what is it that I do that even if I don't get paid for it, I would still do it anyway. That's teaching the word of God. That's my life's passion. So in other words, I define my life. I know it's the will and the purpose of God for my life, but I define my life in how I impact other people's lives. So in your dreams, in your whatever you want to attain in life, you need to come to a place where your dreams get you to serve others. Jesus is our greatest example. He was God in the flesh. And Jesus, when he came into life, he did not come to be served. He did not come to boss everybody. He came to serve. So Jesus was showing us in other ways that life boils down to saving others. The greatest achievers in life, your Mandelas, your Mahatma Gandhis and everything, all of them, they are great. They were respected to be great people simply because they lived for more than themselves. They lived lives that touched other people's lives. So life boils down to how much are you willing to serve your generation? How much are you willing to serve your community? How much are you willing to serve those who are around you? That's what really defines life for me. Of course, there is more. If I was to go into detail, I was going to unpack this even more. But really, if you want to know what satisfies in life, is when you come to the point in your life where you have served others. When you get whatever you have been wishing for in life and you look back and you say, but I have impacted lives, then you can be satisfied. Just like Simeon, who came to the end of his life and he saw the Messiah and he said, well, now I've come to the end of my life because I know that other people after me are going to be impacted. Indeed, what God said, that he's going to change lives, lives of Jews, lives of Gentiles and everybody else. Indeed, I see it in front of me. So what satisfied him was the reality that, other people's lives are going to be better after him. And that's really what defines life. Unfortunately, that's how far I can go for today. Maybe I will make another video in the future to try to break some of these things down. Thank you so much for listening. I hope your life was impacted and I hope it does make a difference to you. I pray that you continue to grow in this, and if you have any more questions, please continue to use the email address in your screen. Send those questions. I will be pleased to answer them to the best of my ability. By the way, I don't know everything, okay? I answer to the best of my ability. And by the grace of God, thus far it's been working very well. So thank you so much, and may the Lord continue to bless you.